American Psycho is a cultural phenomenon. It started off as a book in 1991, it was adapted into a popular movie in 2000, and it experienced a major revival of popular interest in the 2020s. What does all of this have to do with Donald Trump? Moreover, how are these two linked to the construction of gender identity? Let's move piece by piece and start off with American Psycho. Bret Easton Ellis wrote American Psycho as a critique to the shallow and vicious aspects of capitalism. The story is about Patrick Bateman, a wealthy, narcissistic investment broker who lives a double life as a serial killer. Although the book is largely categorized as satire, it was met with a strong backlash after its release. This is mainly because the book describes in extremely graphic detail how Bateman tortures and kills his female victims. This led to the book being called misogynistic and basically a guide on how to commit such crimes. Alongside this critique, a lot of book reviewers and critics saw potential in the narrative of American Psycho. Some dubbed it ahead of its time as an extraordinary but shocking expression of the 1980s zeitgeist. Whatever the true nature of the book, misogynistic or innovatory, its gender roles are apparent. Patrick Bateman is a man and he kills people, but especially women, in sadistic detail. This violent power structure, this juxtaposition of gender, is why the book was thought to be unfilmable. However, in 2000, the movie was released. The movie and the book are naturally quite similar, but a particularly interesting difference between them is its portrayal of gender. The studio behind the movie hired two women to be in charge of the narrative, Mary Harron as director and Guinevere Turner to assist her in the screenplay. Harron and Turner changed Ellis's vision of American Psycho into something different, something which was way more satirical and much more acutely aware of gender. This change resulted in the movie being dubbed by some as even feminist. Whatever the case, there was a major difference between the book and the film. Don't get me wrong, Patrick Bateman still brutally kills women in the film, but Harron decided to drive much more empathy towards the woman and much more satire towards Bateman. By humanizing the woman and making Bateman more ridiculous, it levels out the power structure presented in Ellis's book. While Ellis used only Bateman's point of view in the book, Harron removed Bateman's voice from the majority of the narrative. Harron also included the perspective of the woman in the film by using empathetic film language, such as close-ups, eye contact, and added narrative focus. The stripping of Bateman's voice and the empathizing of the victims allows the viewer to critique Bateman more easily. Alongside this, Harron and Turner satirized Bateman much more than Ellis. Bateman was meant to be a commentary on some aspects of modern masculinity, to make fun of materialism and the yuppie world of Wall Street executives. In order to achieve this commentary, Harron and Turner focused on the performative nature of gender. To those not familiar with performative gender, in a nutshell, it's a theory that gender is not a fixed state, but rather something which is performed in a repeated set of actions, gestures, and behaviors. The theory, which is much deeper and has evolved a lot since its publication in 1990, is nonetheless incredibly evident in the movie from 2000. Bateman is shown as intentionally performing his personality, and in the process, his masculinity, explicitly saying that it's artificial.
But there is no real me, only an entity. Something illusory.
As we're watching a movie, the method of presenting this artificial persona can be split into scenes. We have scenes of skincare routine, of physical exercise, of distinct reactions, of certain dialogue. We could easily extract all of the scenes which build Bateman's masculinity in the film. This extraction would find tens of scenes which very clearly show Bateman constructing his persona, and thus in the process also constructing his gender. Now let's jump ahead 20 years. Patrick Bateman has become an internet phenomenon through short video clips, memes, and GIFs. But so have a lot of other shows and movies become memes and phenomenons. That's modern internet culture. We recycle familiar franchises to suit whatever discourse fits today. But there is something different in American Psycho, something which can't be written off as just like everything else. The long road of the internet and Patrick Bateman started right after the movie came out, when gym forums became obsessed with achieving Bateman's muscular body. Throughout the years, Bateman stayed relatively under the radar until during the COVID pandemic in 2020, he experienced a major revival. Bateman became a power fantasy for a very certain audience. He became a cool guy who does cool things, a so-called Sigma male. Videos from specific moments of the film got millions of views on TikTok. Playlists were named after him, and Bateman was turned into an embodiment of some particular idealized masculinity. This concept of the Sigma male was expanded to other characters as well, such as Tyler Durden from Fight Club, Joaquin Pheonix's Joker, or Jordan Belfort from The Wolf of Wall Street. These characters became idols of this audience, one which resonated with the performative gender that Harron and Turner created over 20 years ago. It's relatively hard to accurately identify this audience without too much prejudice and categorization, but thankfully we can deduce some qualities of it. The Sigma male is an archetype, similar to an alpha male, but instead of being the center of society as an alpha is, a Sigma lives on the fringes of society, in the periphery. He's a person which is as powerful as the alpha but chooses not to follow the conventions of society as the alpha does. Now, if Patrick Bateman and the rest of these characters represent the archetypal Sigma male, and we have an audience which identifies with these males, then we can deduce a few qualities of this audience. They must feel like they also operate on the periphery of society. They must also want and aspire to be on top of some sort of societal hierarchy. These qualities, on some level, are present in almost every human. We have moments when we feel distant from society, and we also have moments where we want to climb some sort of traditional hierarchy. These are very normal human emotions. It's just that if these emotions are repeated for a long time, possibly a lifetime, that's where our audience is born. The audience which finds the concept of the Sigma male appealing. A prolonged feeling of exclusion and powerlessness and not being able to act upon it creates heavy frustration. This frustration is aimed at society, as society is perceived to be the cause which makes life difficult. This is what drives the audience towards the world of Patrick Bateman. The similarities are apparent. Patrick Bateman, a serial killer, wears a mask in front of society, hiding his true feelings, similar to the one this frustrated audience has to do, hence the frustration. Bateman exudes self-confidence and seems to be in control, something which an audience that feels they're not in control themselves must find appealing. Bateman is also very muscular, thus traditionally seen as masculine, something which is in danger in our audience as frustration and helplessness are threatening it. There's a famous book by Sara Ahmed which argues that emotions are not merely psychological states, but rather they're intertwined with cultural practices and bodies. This means that when emotions are felt on a cultural scale, they are deeply related to the bodies of the people who feel them. Thus, emotions are said to give social value to the body. Naturally, this theory is much deeper as well, but its base level idea can be seen in our own phenomenon. When looking at the performative nature of Bateman's masculinity and the frustrations of this modern audience, we can see a connection between the two of them. The audience extracts these performative actions of masculinity, strips them of their context, and emotionally repurposes them to suit their own cause of the Sigma male. This repurposing gives emotional meaning to the people of this community, thus meaning to their bodies. This is especially because this audience lives in a constant disharmony about what they think their body is. Their ideology of their body is telling them that they have to be super masculine, but they feel society is trying to dismantle this. Thus, emotionally repurposing Bateman's character makes them feel more in tune with their concept of strong masculinity. Or more than that, it compensates and exaggerates feelings of lost masculinity. Bateman is satire. He is an exaggeration. By using building blocks constructed of Bateman, you cannot end up anywhere else but an exaggeration. Bateman is ultra focused on money, looks, sexuality, and societal disapproval. He also happens to be a serial killer, which for some reason doesn't seem to matter. Actually, it might be a way for them to channel repressed anger due to loss of control. But that's off topic. The reason why this particular Sigma male movement resonates with the American psycho is not because it helps them channel aggression. It's because it acts as a perfect weapon in their endless battle against a world that's alien and hostile towards them, specifically towards their gender identity, their overemphasized concept of masculinity. This is one of the reasons why patriarchal masculinity hurts everybody, women and men included. Now, you must already see the deep link between gender identity and American Psycho. There's misogynism, performativity, and finally emotional repurposing. But our trifecta is still not complete. We've talked about these two on quite a thorough scale, but still not about Donald Trump. Patrick Bateman idolizes Donald Trump. Not President Trump, but a previous version of him. An unmerciful businessman, a product of ultra-capitalism. Bateman admires Trump because he's a model on what masculinity and success were supposed to look like. Especially in the book, Bateman constantly talks about Trump, up to the point that Bateman's girlfriend Evelyn often wishes he would sometimes talk about something else. His love for Trump clearly indicates to the reader the things that Bateman values most in another person. Wealth, success, extravagance, and beautiful women. The symbolism behind Bateman's fanatism of Trump is one of ridicule. By showing a satirical monster liking Trump, it associates this monster with him and tries to provide commentary on a society that admires such people. But the 80s and 90s version of Trump is not completely divorced from the modern Trump. In a lot of ways, Trump's rhetoric is still about the same things, and many Americans elected Trump as president on the basis of this rhetoric. On the table, we have people idolizing a character who loves Trump. We also have a pool of people who elected Trump president. Are these two people somehow connected? Do they have similarities? Possibly. Trump's protectionist and conservative politics offer an illusion of control to those who feel helpless or frustrated. Of course, the TikTok generation behind the Sigma male movement likely did not vote Trump for office due to their age, but nonetheless, it showcases similarities in the two of them. Both of them feel attacked and seek change in the world through extreme means. A lot of this perceived attacking has a lot to do with gender identity and modern gender politics. I think this is a fundamental similarity between these two. The concepts of patriarchal gender identities are being challenged, and it's perceived as dangerous. But let's face it, advocating Patrick Bateman is dangerous, and he adores Trump's rhetoric. This means that they both have qualities that enable dangerous behavior, such as violence, sexism, and racism. The danger of Bateman is evident, as he's a serial killer. In Trump, it's more indirect, as he's a politician. They both share similar symbolism. Be ruthless, protect yourself to narcissistic measures, objectify women. Like I said, there are reasons why Bateman adores Trump. Now, I'm not saying Trump is comparable to an actual serial killer. I'm comparing the ideas of a fictional, satirical serial killer to him. And as you can see, the irony is off the charts. A story meant as a warning of the direction of masculinity resulted in it being a flagpost of the opposite ideals. The same ideals that had a major role in one of the biggest political turning points in the modern Western world. Ironic or scary, the cultural phenomenon that is American Psycho is a very interesting case of how a movie can be interpreted in society, how it moves and floats around, what kind of emotions it creates, and really just how it exists in the realm of humanity. American Psycho is still a fragment of cinema, but oh boy, it's a big one. Tell me what you think about all of this. Did you learn something new? Do you feel the implementations of gender and emotions are accurate? And especially, how do you feel about American Psycho? Comment, like, subscribe, whatever you do, join in on the discussion.